Alright, so for this video, I'm going to be talking about how we live in an actor-based reality. We live in a sort of almost like a Hollywood movie set. People say the world's a stage. People say that people describe politics like a puppet show. People describe the world as a stage, and everyone's an actor, and all the world events are staged. And I didn't really get that until recently, where I really started to think about this, because it really does seem to be that we live in a world where the people who are the least talented, the people who are the least interesting, the people who are the least deserving of power, influence, money, etc., are the ones that get the most of it. And the reason why this is, like, the reason why people who are the least talented and the least interesting are the ones that get the most is because they're more controllable that way. If you artificially promote and boost people without any talent, people without any real, without any real ability to create anything, then they're totally dependent on the artificial system. And of course, if you don't do the dance, if you don't push for certain political agendas, if you don't, wear the dress in the Hollywood films, if you don't, do the humiliation rituals, like John. It makes me think of like John Cena being naked, right? So it's like that type of humiliation ritual, where if you don't do that thing, then you're not going to be artificially pushed by the establishment, right? So I'm going to go through sort of like a list here that that I've sort of made of like the different sort of people, that like the different sort of subgroups of actor that come to mind whenever we talk about the world being a stage. Right. And so, like, the first thing that I want to talk about is sort of like the political actors, right? Every politician might as well be a Hollywood actor. And like the biggest two examples, that I've been able to think of is you have like I think Biden is the most obvious example of this, because during the Biden administration, people were talking about how, like he was like how, his face looked different than his face did before. And then of course you have like the White House being like a Hollywood set, or like a I think that there was this time, during the Biden administration, where I remember, Biden being like outside of like a Hollywood set, or being outside of like some sort of, fake White House, for, somehow. And that was kind of interesting. But then you also have like the whole, Mission Impossible masks that they have on. And then of course, like the CIA has like a real version of like the masks that they put on. And so I wouldn't doubt that, a lot of like the politicians that are up there, they might not even be the original people. They might just be people wearing a mask, in order to play a part, right? Yet again, they're playing a part. It's all a stage. It's all like a Hollywood script. Okay, and then you have like Donald Trump. The thing about Donald Trump is like the fact that he acts so ridiculously, and the fact that he acts so like theatrically. Like there's that, but there's also the fact that he has like Donald Trump actually does have a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Okay, so I mean, it's almost like they put it in your face. They sort of tell you the truth. They put it in your face. So it is kind of interesting how, it does seem to be that, the political world, and like the political sort of play, or the political stage, is run by Hollywood actors. The people that really get like the institutional power are sort of like, it makes me think of like the Mandarin in like Iron Man 3. There was this guy who was like this Osama bin Laden guy, which, Osama bin Laden was also like an actor hired by the CIA. Okay, so yet again, like even like the foreign threats in the political stage in the world are actors. Okay, so but like it reminds me of that scene in like Iron Man 3, where, like you have like this guy who, he pretends to be like this big threat from the Middle East or whatever. And he turns out to be like this timid, British speaking guy who's an actor. And that's exactly how the majority of politics seems to be. Okay, so that's the first thing that I want to mention in terms of like the group, is these sort of subgroups of actor, is that, politics is a stage, right? Like it makes me think of like the Trump assassination attempt, where, he got supposedly shot in the ear, and, his ear remarkably healed for some reason. And then you have like the people rushing in for the money shot, right, as if they knew it was going to happen. Right, so that was a staged event. And then you look at like the Charlie Kirk stuff. I think that, there's a 50-50 chance that Charlie Kirk's still alive, to be honest. I mean, you know, yet again, I mean, like the world's a stage, everything's fake. And then you have like the whole, there was this one Indian guy who said like, oh, I'll see you in Valhalla. And I think there was like a military base called Valhalla or whatever. And so, it is kind of interesting how like they do put it in your face, like, oh, okay, like I'll see you at like this military base or whatever. It's like faking his death, or setting up the. And I don't doubt that there's like real events that happen. I don't doubt that there's events that happen that are initially staged. Like for example, school sprayings. I think that a lot of that is staged. Like, it makes me think of like the Sandy Hook stuff. It makes me think of like a lot of these other sort of school sprayings where basically what happens is that like the government gives a mentally ill teenager a weapon with all the attachments that they want banned, and then they just and then like real people die, right? I think that with some of these, I think that there is a bit of nuance where it's like it makes me think of like all the wars. Like the wars are fake, but real people die, and but like the reason why those people die is fake, right? Like the political players in like either side of the war are fake, but like the real people die, and that's where you get into like the loosh harvesting. That's where you get into like the energy harvesting and like the death and the destruction and all that other stuff, right? I mean, like 9/11 is also another example of this, right? So a lot of the events that are, and it also makes me think of like the George Floyd stuff. I think Derek Chauvin was also, I think that there was also this theory that he is actually an actor of some kind, and then you have like the crisis actors, which you have the same people showing up in these different crises in the media and all this other stuff. So it is kind of interesting how when you really really start to look into it, we're living in a fucking Hollywood movie. We're living in a fucking world. Like when people say the world's a stage, that's really what they mean. Is that everything is like they lie to you in the news and then they put the truth in movies, right? Which they put the truth in movies, in order to mock the truth and in order to discredit the truth in the minds of the masses. I think that that's why they put it in the movies. There's some people that say that they put the truth in movies, as a way to absolve themselves of karma, which I'm not really sure about that explanation. I think it's definitely possible that that's a reason why, they put stuff in the movies, but I think it's more to discredit, true information. And I also think that it's a form of magic. It's a form of image magic, where they're essentially projecting imagery into the collective unconscious, and so people get. It's almost like sigils, right? It's how sigils work. It works on the subconscious mind. It's like you look at all the imagery that they used before 9/11, that they put in The Simpsons and all this other stuff, right? But um, it is kind of interesting that whenever you look into the world of politics, whenever you look into, stuff like 9/11, stuff like the crisis actors, if you look at like all these major events where people get mad about it, people argue about it online, people get distressed about it, and you really look into it, it does seem to be that these are sort of like Hollywood scripts, that these are like movie scenes, and that the people involved are Hollywood actors. Right, so that's the first thing. But the second thing that I want to talk about, or the second category here, is like literal actors in Hollywood. Which if you really look into like the actors in Hollywood, like the people who are the actors there, yet again, like they're like, it makes me think of like Kevin Hart or Dwayne the Rock Johnson or whatever, and it makes me think of like the least talented people. Yet again, the least talented, the least interesting people. If you really look at like these actors in like podcasts or whatever, like if you really look at like the kinds of people that they are, they're the least interesting people. They're the most like depraved people. Because I mean, you also, I mean, you've seen Eyes Wide Shut, right? I mean, like there's a lot of like the older Hollywood actors, they probably eat babies and all this other stuff. Okay, they probably do like all that adrenochrome harvesting and all that other stuff, right? But the main thing that I want to talk about here is like the Black Eye Club and like that. And I don't know if I want to make a separate sort of dedicated video on the subject. I need to research this more, but um the whole theory behind like the Black Eye Club is like you have like the Vril worm. Like this idea that like whenever they get the black eye, like it makes me think of like Jay Leno and Robert Downey Jr. and all this other stuff. Like the reason why they have the black eye supposedly is that they're getting injected with some sort of reptilian parasite that monitors their vision in that eye, or something similar to that. Like, and you have like that everything from like, oh, it's monitoring the eyesight, to possession, where it's like the basically these actors get possessed and they're able to be controlled through, and then of course you have like the Katy Perry doing weird blinking with like, the MK Ultra stuff, right? So, definitely Hollywood actors are definitely, mind controlled. They're definitely there to be, controlled to push for certain agendas and stuff like that. And then you also have like the humiliation rituals, like like wearing dresses, like yet again like John Cena standing, with like butt ass naked in front of everyone. So you have like the humiliation rituals, which is like that's sort of like an initiation. In my opinion, I think that it's almost like a test to see if you'll obey orders. I think that that's more of what it is. But if you look at stuff like that, it is kind of interesting how like if you look at Hollywood, there's a reason why they call it Holly weird. Okay, but it does seem to be that like these people really do get a lot of institutional power. They get a lot of money. They get a lot of influence. And yet again, like I've made a video about this kind of like a while ago, but like actors are the ones that contribute the least to the civilization that they're a part of, and yet they're the most rewarded financially and with social status, which is kind of like it's a part of the inversion, on this plane of existence, right? But I think that the reason for this is because actors are, it's easy for them to push for and to influence the public opinion, and I think that this is the reason why I think that like the demiurge or the devil or whatever evil force is running this realm. How is it that like the demiurge can promise fame? How is it that like whenever these people sign like the soul contract, or whenever these people like the singers, it makes me think of someone like Taylor Swift. Like nobody who is a real person goes to Taylor Swift concerts. I mean, come on, like if you're a Swiftie, you're probably not a real person. I'm just saying, like it's the most bland, yet again, bland, talentless. Like most of the singers don't even write their own music. Okay, so they're literally just like middlemen for ghost writers behind the scenes, right? But if you look at like yet again the promise of fame, how is it that like the demiurge or the devil or whatever can promise fame? And the reason for that is because the majority of people are non-player characters. The majority of people are NPCs. The majority of people are non-player characters, and so like basically what the promise is that the demiurge can make the NPCs like you. If you decide to play ball, right, or bail, right, if you decide to play bail, if you decide to be a part of the club, then basically the demiurge will reward you with the NPCs going to your concerts. The NPCs can like you. The NPCs will kiss your ass. The NPCs will go to your concerts and buy and consume your products and get excited for the next product, right? And so I think that that's what's going on. Whenever it comes to like if you like sell your soul or whatever, like a lot of these people talk about, to the devil or whatever, and like why do they put like satanic imagery and all this other stuff? Is yet again it's a form of image magic. They're trying to spread their sigils. They're trying to spread their thought forms into the masses. You look at people like Snoop Dogg. I think he made a song called "Murder Was the Case," and like the entire video is about him selling his soul to the devil for fame and fortune and money and all this other stuff, right? So it is kind of interesting how like why is it that the demiurge can promise fame? Is I think that the promise of fame is basically I can make the NPCs like you, right? This leads into the next section of actor. Away from like the actors and singers in Hollywood, like the next section of actor is the internet actor, right? Like there's also the promise of like pushing your shit into the algorithm, pushing your shit like hard, like Joe Rogan, Lex Friedman, Andrew Tate, Nick Fuentes, like Clavicular. Like I've seen that Clavicular guy in my feed. I don't even look at that kind of stuff. Like he's been pushed, really hard. And if you go back, a couple of years, you look at how hard Andrew Tate was pushed, into all of our feeds, right? So I think that is another way that the demiurge can promise fame is that, oh, okay, I'll push your shit really hard into the algorithm. And it makes me think of like people like Mr. Beast as well. Right? Like Mr. Beast, oh my God, like, that guy is demonic. Like the Mr. Beast guy, he is demon possessed. I swear, like his smile is super fake. And I think that there was this one video clip that I remember. And I'll probably put a link to this below if I can find the video. But like basically what's happening is that like he was eating like a really fancy pizza, and of course whenever people start talking about pizza, that's when something's up, right? But he bought like this really expensive like gold leaf like pizza or whatever, and he said like, oh, it's like, and whenever he cut through the pizza, I think he was like, oh, okay, it's like cutting through like a baby's skin or whatever. Like he said something weird like that, right? So yeah, even like the most famous like internet personalities. I mean, even like the internet personalities that are really pushed, that have like millions with an M subscribers, like hundreds of millions, or like tens of millions or hundreds of millions of subscribers. Like I think that all of these people are a part of the club. They're controlled opposition, and especially like all of these podcasts like Lex Friedman, Sean Ryan, Joe Rogan, they're also a part of the club. And they're also, there to push certain agendas. And especially Joe Rogan recently. I think Joe Rogan is the most obvious example, especially in recent times, He's definitely there pushing sort of Zionist agendas. And if we're talking about how, like yet again, the least talented, the least interesting, the most stupid people get rewarded with fame, you look at someone like Joe Rogan. He's what a fucking dumbass. What a dumbass that how surface level is that guy? Like anytime I watch a Joe Rogan clip, it pisses me off because it's like this guy, this fucking idiot is what people are watching. Like it's this fucking idiot. Like this guy is what people are watching. And there was this video that I remember seeing it on. I don't know if it was Odyssey or BitChute. About this guy going into why Joe Rogan is a CIA asset or a Pentagon asset, and he goes into like the weird history of like one of the brands that he's a part of on it. And like the people that he's associated with, and like how artificially pushed someone like Joe Rogan is. Because I mean, if you knew someone like Joe Rogan in real life, like yet again, not interesting, not talented at all, not talented at all, not like it's yet again like the least interesting people, the people with the least substance are the ones that are pushed. And it also makes me think of there's this guy that I remember seeing called Togi, and like this guy's also another dumbass who he gambles his money. He plays around with money that would be like life changing to any one of us. He plays around with money that's like life changing to any one of us. He's like, oh my god, dude, I lost the $2 million house, dude. Oh my god, it's stuff like that, which it really pisses me off that that's the reward system of this realm. And even like people like Asmongold, yet again, it's all surface level opinions. There's no real deep insight. There's no real spirit inside of these people. That you can say, and I'm just using my guy. I might sound like a little vitriolic whenever I talk about these people, but I mean, seriously, use your gut, use your intuition. What energy do you get off of Joe Rogan? What energy do you get off of Asmongold? What energy do you get off of someone like Clavicular? Are you getting like a real player character, spiritual energy from these people? No, these people are like the most dim, dumb, talentless, low substance, low hanging fruit people. But that's precisely why they get promoted. That's precisely why they get promoted, is because of the fact that they don't have any talents of their own. They don't have any real skills. That they're not interesting people, and that's what makes them controllable. Because if they don't play ball, if they don't play bail, right? Is it bail or ball? Because I hear people say ball a lot whenever they refer to Baal or Moloch, right? If they don't play with Baal's balls, okay, then what's going to happen is that they're not going to be artificially pushed anymore. And of course, like someone like Clavicular, I think he's sponsored by Peter Thiel. Like he has Peter Thiel behind him. And of course, Peter Thiel is an anagram for the reptile. Okay, so you have like the Palantir guy pushing for the Clavicular guy, who promotes like the most degenerate worldview, like the most degenerate. Like it's all surface level. It's all about how you look. It's all about how like going to clubs and all that. Like going to clubs is subhuman behavior. Like going to clubs and live streaming and doing drugs and all this other stuff. Yet again, the most dumbass people with low talent, low spirit, that they have low chi, they have low they're not really thinking about like the nature of things. They never talk about abstract concepts. They're just talking about the current thing, like a non-player character. Right, and yet again, I might sound like a little vitriolic whenever I talk about these people, but it's really, yet again, use your gut. Like the Asmongolds, the Joe Rogans, the Let's Play YouTubers. It even makes me think of like the live streamers, which is like another class of actor, by the way. Like the live streamers like I Show Speed and Kai Cenat, who yet again like they're acting like total fucking clowns on camera, and like they're all like yelling over the simplest things. They're all like making noises, and they're like whooping like animals on the camera, and it's so exhausting. Like yet again, like these are the people in this, because we live in a realm that is inverted. We live in a prison realm. We live in a hell realm, and I think that this is one of like the biggest pieces of proof that we live in a hell realm. Is like that these are the people that get rewarded with the money. These are the people that get rewarded with the publicity, with the fame. Is the people who are like the yet again like it's like an idiocracy thing. Right, and of course, I think that the reason for this, like the reason why this realm is structured this way, and I'm not saying it's impossible to get your piece of the pie, but I think that if you want like to blow up, like Mr. Beast levels of success is a part of the system. If you want like a Mr. Beast level of popularity, like a Mr. Beast level of, and also like the name Mr. Beast also reminds me of like the mark of the beast, the beast in the Book of Revelation. right? So there's also that as well. But if you really think about like wanting to like blow up, so to speak, in that sense, that's where you get into the system. That's where you get into being artificially pushed by the system, right? And so I do think that past a certain level of fame, past a certain level of influence, past a certain level of like net worth, I think that there's a guy in red horns, a guy with in a fancy suit, and he has horns, and he comes to you with a contract, and he says, "Oh, okay, do you want to I can make you famous, I can make you rich, and are you in, are you out? And if you're out, you either fall off or they kill you." I think that that's the way things work in this realm. I think yet again we live in an actor-based reality. They don't want people with institutional power, institutional influence, the ability to speak to millions of people. They don't want those people to be out of control because they might promote certain ideas that aren't beneficial to the prison system. Right, but yeah, there's my rant about internet personalities. I think internet personalities and like this sort of brand or this sort of subclass of like live streamer, let's player, clickbait YouTuber, Mr. Beast YouTube, sort of YouTuber with like the AI generated thumbnails. Like those are like the worst in terms of like yet again like talentless people, like dumb people, talentless people, people without a creative spark, people who are NPCs being rewarded with material success, right? And the sort of last section that I want to go into in terms of like the actor-based reality, the last section is about astronauts, and this is where we get into like the whole fakery of space, which first of all, the word NASA is a Hebrew word for deception. Okay, so that's the first thing that I want to mention. But the second thing that I want to mention is that you can see videos of like the so-called astronauts on the ISS, having like a hip, having like wires attached to their hips and all this other stuff, and like they have hairspray in their hair to make it look like it's so-called zero gravity, and like yeah, like because usually it's like the women who are supposedly the astronauts, they have like longer hair, and so what they do is they put hairspray to make it stand up like a straight rigid structure. Instead of being like flowy like it should. If you're really in a zero gravity environment, then your hair is going to be like flowy like it is underwater. If you know how hair behaves underwater, then that's more of what you would expect. But no, like they put hairspray and they make it like a rigid structure, right? And then of course like the whole like Artemis 2 mission, like the whole like, oh, we're gonna go back to the moon for the first time in 50 years. They did it on April 1st. Okay, I mean how much is enough when it comes to like believing the space program stuff? Because I think that you know whenever it comes to like the space program, I think that there's a fake space program to cover up a real space program, because I think that this this sort of system has a real space program that involves anti-gravity tech. I think that it involves zero point energy, anti-gravity tech, like UFOs basically. And I think that there is a real space program. It's just black budget. It's not in the public eye. And I think that this is like yet again, the puppet show, the world's a stage, the actor-based Hollywood basement version of the space program is the NASA stuff, right? And then of course you have like the whole Challenger deception, like the whole Challenger disaster. So it's like all of the people who supposedly died on the Challenger shuttle are actually still alive, which is kind of interesting, right? And then of course like every astronaut is like a Freemason too. Like you have like Buzz Aldrin doing like the OK symbol over his eyes, and all this other stuff, right? It's almost like, hey, I want to be an astronaut when I grow up. No, you're not going to be an astronaut. You know why? Because you're not a Freemason, right? Almost every astronaut is a Freemason. Okay. So that is another aspect of like the actor-based reality too, is like the whole space program, the NASA stuff. Okay, but yeah, like I just wanted to sort of go over these sort of these different categories of actors. Like politicians are actors, crisis actors, right? Internet celebrities, internet personalities, Hollywood actors, singers, astronauts. Like we do really live in an actor-based reality. The people who are the least talented, the people who are the most brain dead, seem to be the ones that are the most rewarded materially, with material status, with social status, with a higher place on the hierarchy. And so it really does make you think about how fake and gay this reality is. If everything in this reality, is sort of like a Hollywood script. If everything every major event, that happens in this reality is played out by Hollywood actors, which I think that I'm starting to believe that that's more and more the case the more time goes on, right? But yeah, that's the video.